Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Kroll's Emerging Threats Weekly Brief for the 13th of July, 2026. I'm Ryan Hicks. With me today is Jeff Deng and Sam Flint from the Threat Intelligence team. So today we're covering the following topics. First off, China linked UAT 7810, expanding of operational relay box infrastructure, some fake Interpol phishing leading to sort of small-scale ransomware. Jeff looking at fake job interview campaign stealing Google accounts, and then Sam's rounding off with Remus-Stealer, which is a Lumma-like Infostealer, and also JadePuffer with end-to-end agentic AI ransomware execution. So first up, Cisco Talos reported it's tracking the infrastructure malware associated with what they dub as UAT 7810, China-nexus APT. Responsible for maintaining and expanding the LapDogs Operational Relay Box network. So the main development reported for this week is the group's expansion of malware used throughout the compromise that are deployed onto networking devices. So the malware identified, firstly, is LONGLEASH, a new version of the previously disclosed ShortLeash backdoor. There was also two newly identified malware families, known as DogLeash, which is a C-based Linux backdoor, and JarLeash, a Java-based administrative backdoor. And finally, there was dubbed as Leash Test, which is a Linux binary used to validate functionality on MIPS-based devices. So the group primarily exploits older known vulnerabilities in unpatched routers, including brands Ruckus and Asus AI Cloud. And the activity kind of really forces the exposed and poorly maintained edge devices and sort of small office home routers remain valuable infrastructure for even sort of state-aligned operations. And the ongoing significance really for this appears the group is focused on building this durable relay infrastructure rather than directly conducting every intrusion themselves. And these networks really make attribution and detection harder because secondary actors can piggyback off these and route malicious traffic through these compromised as a small office, home office sort of devices that appear kind of unrelated to the final target. So kind of this kind of growing network. So certainly an actor looking to continue to track it and see how that kind of develops and any more reporting as needed. Next up, so there's been a phishing campaign reported by Bitdefender impersonating Interpol, who are the International Criminal Police Organization. The campaign appeared to target smaller businesses across kind of a wide variety of countries across Europe, Asia, Middle East, and the US as well. The emails themselves claim to come from Interpol's cybercrime investigation unit and allege that investigators have obtained evidence of suspicious company activity, so sort of targeted at or appear to claim from the victim's company. So really pressuring recipients to urgently review the material to see what evidence there is that they've kind of gathered. The attack really relies on this kind of urgency and authority rather than really any sophisticated techniques. Recipients are then directed to a Proton Drive link hosting a password protected archive, the password being in the email itself. And once open, the archive appears to contain a video file, again showing the alleged evidence, which is described in the email, but the file is actually an executable that launches ransomware. The payload appears relatively simple, using hard-coded values. It kind of lacks many features normally associated with more of a mature ransomware as a service operation. As well, they didn't provide sort of fixed ransom demands or a dedicated leak site portal. The note just instructs the victim to contact the attackers through Tox, which is a peer-to-peer messaging service. So leading to the likelihood of the campaign being either a kind of an individual or a smaller emerging ransomware group starting with these kind of small operations. So much smaller scale than kind of common ransomware operations. So It did show, however, that the kind of low complexity ransomware still could bring or can bring business disruption, particularly when paired with convincing social engineering. In this case, with backed with sort of what appears to be an authoritative figure, albeit, as I mentioned, being on a smaller scale and a smaller impact, as we typically see with other ransomware campaigns. Recommendations wise, so education on users, verification of these kind of law enforcement regulatory notices before opening any files. Monitoring any external connections to Proton Drive hosted links. So it's not something that commonly comes up as a cloud service used. So yeah, a potential kind of hunting or detection opportunity to if legitimate use of that service is not required. Certainly looking for any connections to those, and also configuring systems to show file extensions may help to identify executables masquerading as videos. So it may be a way of triggering to the user. Of course, there's multiple layers that we'd like to kind of get in place, but that may be just one that can help a user if they suddenly see an executable. It may sort of trigger to not click on that. Whereas without that, they may just sort of see an icon and click it. So some recommendations there. Okay, next I'll hand over to Jeff.
Okay. A phishing campaign is impersonating more than 30 well-known brands, including Adobe, Netflix, Coca-Cola, Adidas, and OpenAI to steal Google account credentials from marketing professionals. The campaign uses fake job interview invitations and impersonates real recruiters by using their names and photographs to increase credibility. The operation abuses legitimate cloud services to make the phishing flow appear trustworthy. According to the analysis by Team CRMU, the email appears to originate from the PeopleForce HR platform, while the links route through Salesforce, Marketing Cloud's domain, and then through Wise Agent before reaching attacker control landing pages. This nested redirect chain helps the campaign evade user suspicion and may reduce the likelihood that recipients or automated controls immediately identify the destination as malicious. Once a victim clicks the scheduling link, they are redirected to a fake hiring page. For example, Adidas deemed recruitment page and asked to continue by signing into their Google account. The continue of Google prompt opens a fake authentication window rendered inside the phishing page using HTML and CSS, a technique known as a browser in the browser. Although it looks like a legitimate Google sign-in pop-up, it is part of the malicious page and is designed to capture credentials. The campaign has been reportedly active for at least 5 months. It has used at least 34 domains impersonating high-value companies across travel, food and beverage, apparel, consulting, technology, hospitality, entertainment, and sports. The broader significance is that recruiting themed phishing remains effective because it combines professional opportunity, brand trust, and familiar cloud-based scheduling workflows. Organizations should treat job interviewers as a credible credential theft vector, particularly for roles with access to marketing systems, customer data, cloud drives, and corporate communications. Recommendations include train users to verify recruiter outreach through official company domains and LinkedIn profiles before signing in. Warn staff that browser-in-the-browser pop-ups can imitate legitimate Google authentication windows. Enforce phishing-resistant MFA for Google Workspace and other cloud accounts. Block or flag suspicious recruitment domains and nested redirected chains involving unexpected marketing or CRM platforms. Monitor Google account logins for possible travel, new design registration, unusual off grants, and suspicious session activity. Thank you. Handing it over to Sam.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next story this week focuses on a newly emerging Infostealer known as Remus, which has been gaining traction in cybercrime communities and appears to share significant similarities with the well-known Lumma malware family. Researchers identified overlaps across the malware's administration panel, stolen log structure, obfuscation techniques, and underlying code, raising questions about whether Remus is an evolution of Lumma or a closely related successor rather than an entirely new malware family. Remus first appeared for sale in underground marketplaces in March this year, following the familiar malware as a service model. The platform offers capabilities such as Google OAuth cookie restoration, Telegram-based log delivery, and subscription tiers ranging from basic through to enterprise offerings, making it accessible to a broad range of threat actors. The similarities with Lumma extend beyond just its appearance, with the stealer containing near-identical stolen data directory structures, similar advertising for illicit services within operator panels, shared obfuscation methods, and overlapping code flow. The malware also includes a customer-associated identifier comparable to Lumma's LID system, which may help link campaigns to specific operators. Where Remus appears to differ is in its command and control infrastructure. Before beginning data theft activities, the malware attempts a series of outbound post requests to multiple domains before resolving its final command and control endpoint through ether hiding, a technique that uses blockchain infrastructure to conceal or distribute command and control information. If communication cannot be established, the malware terminates rather than continuing to operate offline. Once connected, Remus retrieves an access token, downloads encrypted configuration data defining what information should be collected, and then exfiltrates the stolen data through encrypted post requests. The malware continues to focus on high-value information sought by cybercriminals, including browser credentials, session cookies, authentication tokens, and cryptocurrency wallet data. The emergence of Remus highlights how successful malware families continue to evolve even when their predecessors face disruption. Rather than introducing fundamentally new capabilities, it combines established Infostealer tradecraft with an updated infrastructure and distribution model designed to remain effective against defensive measures. From a defensive standpoint, Kroll recommends organizations monitor for Infostealer-style browser, wallet, and credential store access on user endpoints. Credentials and session tokens should be rotated quickly following suspected compromise, including OAuth-linked sessions. Security teams should also hunt for suspicious outbound post traffic to newly observed or low reputation domains, prioritize application control, browser hardening, and EDR coverage on user workstations, and monitor for ether hiding related infrastructure lookups and unusual blockchain-backed command and control resolution activity. And finally this week, we look at what may be the first documented ransomware and extortion campaign executed from start to finish by an LLM agent. Tracked as JadePuffer, the campaign compromised an internet-facing Langflow deployment before pivoting into a production database environment, ultimately stealing data, deleting records, and leaving an extortion demand without direct human intervention during the attack lifecycle. Initial access was obtained through CVE 2025-3248, an unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability affecting Langflow, an open-source framework used to build AI applications and agent workflows. Langflow environments frequently contain API keys, cloud credentials, and other sensitive information, making them attractive targets when exposed to the internet. After gaining access, the agent conducted reconnaissance, harvested credentials, collected Langflow data, searched for cloud and AI provider API keys, enumerated internal services, established persistence, and then pivoted into a production environment running MySQL and Alibaba Nacos. Once there, it leveraged known weaknesses and default configurations to gain further access. What makes the activity interesting is the level of autonomy displayed by the agent. Researchers observed it adapting to failures in real time, including one sequence where it moved from a failed login attempt to a successful solution in just 31 seconds. The payloads themselves were delivered as base64 encoded Python through the Langflow vulnerability and contained natural language explanations and reasoning consistent with LLM-generated code. JadePuffer exfiltrated selected information, encrypted 1,342 Nacos configuration records, deleted the original data, and generated a ransom note demanding payment. Significantly, the encryption key appeared to be generated and discarded during execution, suggesting victims may not have been able to recover data even if a ransom had been paid. While none of the individual techniques were particularly sophisticated, the significance of JadePuffer lies in the autonomous orchestration of the complete attack chain. Reconnaissance, credential theft, lateral movement, persistence, adaptation, data destruction, and extortion were all combined into a single operation driven by an AI agent rather than a human-controlled toolkit. From a defensive standpoint, organizations should patch Langflow and remove code execution endpoints from direct internet exposure, isolate AI orchestration servers from production databases, and avoid storing cloud API keys or sensitive credentials on AI workflow hosts. Teams should also harden Nacos, MySQL, and expose configuration services, monitor for base64 encoded Python execution and rapid automated retry patterns, and remove default credentials from internet-facing services and object storage platforms such as Min.io. Thanks, and back to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Sam. As well, thanks, Jeff. So that's all we have for this week. Thank you for tuning in. So if you have any questions, please contact us at cti@kroll.com. Thank you, and see you for next week's briefing.